Hey, this is Paul Payton with Focal Splash, and photographer Dana Hogan has given me the opportunity to create a short tutorial here on coloring and shadowing in a composition. She has already taken the time to color grade the background and to add a hand-drawn spider web here, which is very, very awesome. First thing I want to do real quick is create a layer above the subject right here and hit spacebar and command and zoom in, and then just the space bar and zoom down here. There's a couple of things going on here. The photo was taken on a sheet and the sheet covered up his toes. So what I'm going to do here is something a little strange looking at first, but it will work out in the end. I'm going to use the clone stamp tool and pressing Alt and choosing this spot right here. I'm just going to clone stamp in this, doesn't look like a big toe at all, and then clone stamp in this spot here, about like that, about like so, about like so, and like that. That looks horrible, right? Oh, of course. It's okay. I do plans to take care of that. And then over here, make clone stamp a little smaller. Grab right here and just make his finger here a little wider, maybe not that wide. We'll make an adjustment here in a second. And just to give the right shape to his fingers here. I know, looks pretty odd. We're going to darken this hand up quite a bit, and it won't look near as odd. Alright, so there we have it. Now I'm going to use the healing brush tool, which actually does a lot more blending than just copying pixels, but I had to have the pixels there first to blend with. So we're just going to smooth this out, just so it has the more of the proper shape of a finger, right? And smooth that out there. And on this side, I know you're like, wow, that looks horrible. What is this guy doing? Yeah, well, the struggles of a Photoshop person here. And the magic, see, there's magic in Photoshop. You wonder, how do they do that? Well, this is one way to get it done real quick. And the thing about Photoshop that I always say is, if it looks right, it is right. Alright, so that doesn't look right yet, but we're still working on it. Alright, let me read Control Z. I'll just leave that like it is. So I like the shape there. The shape there is looking pretty good. I'll also use the healing brush to just blend in some of this so there's even less detail dealing with that. See that? Does that look right? Going back to the clone stamp tool, just stamp that, and healing brush, and blend that in. Something like that. That's terrible. That doesn't look anything like it would be right. Okay, well that's because we zoom out. You know, it's looking less bad, but I'm going to put a layer over top of this one, and I'm going to paint with black. Just painting. Actually, I'm going to choose this color right in here. It's not quite black, whatever color that is. And I'm going to clip it. This is the problem. I'm going to just paint right over his foot here. Really? Yep. And right over his hand here. Yeah. That definitely looks like you just ruined the work you did. I'm going to lower the opacity on that. Right down to something like that. I did all that to put them in shadow. And Control zoom in here and bring the opacity up a little bit. And then I'll just quickly add another layer, painting with black, a little smaller, and painting right here. Make sure this is in shadow, bring that into shadow. This finger here and the edge here into shadow, something like that. And we'll bring down the opacity on that too. Why are these little bitty tips of the toes not in shadow? There we go. Alright. Now, what I really want to do is grab all three of these. Nope, sorry, just these two. So I'm going to grab these two here and Control and Alt and E. That makes a copy of those two together. And with this, I'm going to make a clipping mask by holding Alt and pressing right between them and doing the same here. So now the shadow that I put is only on them. Only on them, only on his toes. So this I'm going to lower the opacity some more, and this I'm going to lower that opacity like so. Alright. And then painting a little bit more. Double clicked accidentally. On this layer here, let's see what happens. Painting with black. That's already as dark as it's going to get. So this one I'm going to paint 2 of opacity. I hit the number 2 and got to 20%. And just add a little bit of a gradient here. And I hope you can see that it ain't that bad a job. And then X for, I'm going to hit E actually for the eraser. Put the eraser at 10% by pressing 1 and just erase a little bit off of this right here. And then a little bit here and there. Alright. Something like that. We don't really need to hide the top of his finger here, or the top of his finger here, or the side even, like that. Alright, done playing with that. Okay, I'm going to E on this layer. Right, just take off a little bit. That extra finger we talked about. A little bit off of there. A little bit off of there. And a little bit off of here. You know what? I like it. That's what I did to fix his fingers and his toes. Alright. So now we need a shadow underneath him. So underneath that, actually I'll put it down here just for fun. And we're going to create a shadow. One of the ways to create a shadow is just to paint black underneath him and then lower the opacity. You could use a blending mode to do that or something, but there's another way, and that's to create a solid color layer just like that, and then choose a color that you think will work, right? And then invert it. Alright, so now we have this solid color layer, and we can, now that it's created, we can change this to, say, this color. It's not black, it's kind of dark, you know, we could go really, we can go lighter, you know, we're not going light for a shadow, right? We're going dark, so maybe this color, or this color over here. They're all about the same darkness, it looks like, pretty close. So I'm just going to choose that color there. And it's a little blue, it's not black, which is what we're really looking for. So painting a shadow now, painting in white. One way you can tell about shadows, it's kind of hard on this picture, but the light on the child is coming in this direction. So we're just going to assume it's a street light, you know. But it's coming in this direction, and you can tell shadow direction a lot of times by drawing a line. Let's create a layer above them just for this test layer here real quick, and make the thing. I'm going to draw a line from where I think the shadow you know, is from to where the shadow is, and just draw a straight line. That's how a straight line I could do. All right, something like that. You can see the angle, if you can see. On this image, it's a little difficult to determine the light angle, but I have a feeling that the light angle is coming mostly in this direction. It's coming like this, or even lower. Something like that. So the shadow of his head is going to end up over here. And the shadow of his hand is going to be right here. So his arm, you know, is going to be that way. That knee is going to be sticking out over here someplace. And his back is going to come this way. A lot of people will, and it's taught that way, and it works sometimes. But what some people will do is hit Control J on this. They'll select. My control key gets stuck sometimes. They'll make a selection by hitting Control and selecting on this. And then they'll paint black by hitting Alt and Delete as a way to fill that in with black. So now we have a layer that's just black. All right? And then we hit the Control T, and holding the control down, you know, we'll bend this and move it till, you know, rotate it and put it down. It's one way to do it, you know. And then we have a semblance of a shadow. And I know I did that very crudely, but you notice the shadow of his chin is over here, and his chin should be over here. And so you might, holding the control key down and flip it. Okay, that was horizontal. Control Z. And flip it vertical. So now we got something going on. But again, I know I'm doing this very crudely, but his arm's in the wrong place. His chin might be in the right place, but all right. So, you know, some people do something like that, and it works depending on where the light is coming from, but it doesn't always work. Sometimes you just got to paint it in. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to paint this shadow in with a solid color layer. All right, so I'm going to start by making the assumption that the light's coming here. This head's going to be over here. So with the brush tool, with white, because we're painting in a solid color, I'm just going to put a spot here for his head. Make this a little smaller. Probably drop his hand down. Drop his foot, his leg. You know, something like that, and his foot in. All right, his knee comes up, something like that, and his back goes back pretty good, and there we have something that needs help, but we got to start. All right. So let's reduce the opacity of that layer. Right. And don't really like it so much. Let's try and blur that layer a little bit. That's a little much, because it isn't a super hard light beaming on him. Just find the right amount of blur. All right, and this again, I'm going to paint with the black brush at about 10% opacity, because shadows, the further they are away, the more diffuse they get. And this looks pretty dark back here. And I'm painting with white still, so I need to paint with black. Right? All right. So we have this base shadow with this. We're going to turn the opacity back up a little bit. Something like that. All right, now we need contact shadows. With that, I'm just going to go ahead and create a layer and paint with black, because contact shadows tend to be dense and dark and right up next to the subject. And I'm at 100% opacity, painting with black at 100%. Right in there, right up next to wherever you would see a shadow falling from. So you wouldn't want to put a shadow up here because you wouldn't see that shadow. Just right around the edges where there's making contact with the ground and where you would see it. Down around here, and his hand isn't touching the ground, so there we have that. You know, you wouldn't put it back here because you wouldn't see that shadow. All right, lower the opacity on that just a little bit. And then one more layer of shadows. It's what I call the ambient shadow. Just being around. This one we're going to drop to 50% opacity to start with. Something like that. Because we know it's going to be less. A big, nice, wide brush. And just give the ground a little bit of shadow. Right around where he would, you know, be casting a shadow. And here, and here a little bit. Right here a little bit. Okay. I don't think, okay, that's a little hard. Let's go ahead and drop the opacity to 50. I think it'd be dropping a shadow right there. And a little bit more out here. Something like that, I think. Looks good. All right. So, I'm thinking a shadow would look a little bit more like that in real life. And I just put a line where I shouldn't. So, something like that. All right. Let's do a little bit of dodge and burn real quick on his arm. Just a little bit of soft light. And black brush. And it's in the wrong place. Right there. Just give this a little bit more shadow on this side. And we're going to change that to normal. All right, we're just going to lower the opacity on it because we need the highlights to be in shadow there too. All right, there we go. Okay, so there we have shadows, and I'm thinking that looks pretty good dealing with what we have to deal with here. So now on to color matching. All right, one of the quickest ways to do color matching is go ahead and save this layer by Control J and then just turn that one off. That makes us a copy of that. And then go into Image and Adjustments and Color Match. The source is going to be the document we're working on. The layer is going to be layer 2. That's the background layer. And you see what it did? It just matched all his colors in to the background layer. Well, we don't want that. We want to fade that. I usually go right to 50% to start and just look at it and see, hey, is that a good color match? And sometimes it is. Sometimes it's a little strong. I can press the space bar and the command key and zoom in a little bit. Beautiful. I think that's really nicely color matched. Let's give him a little more of his original color. You can go 75% and you can see that the colors are still matching, but retains a little bit more color, and really it's just the taste. So I want to add just a little bit more color from the background. Let's go with that. And okay. So with that simple color matching technique that comes with Photoshop, if you don't like how much color matching you did, you can just turn that other layer you had on back on and drop the opacity. That's what it was before. Actually, before all the changes we made with the brightness and stuff as well. And that's after. So we added more shadow here, and we color matched them into the scene. And as far as the tutorial is, oh man, that thinks that's over. That's a little scary how quickly that went. He fits in there really nicely right now. Let's just zoom in and take a look at the particulars. Definitely we could, oh, I turn this layer off now. And I wonder, oh, there we go. Since we have that layer on, sometimes when you duplicate a layer, it'll add some more detail to it around that, and you don't want that. So you want to make sure you turn off any duplicated layers to get the effect that you're really looking for. This right here is a little light to me. I mean, you get into fine tuning at some point. I'm just going to create a layer above that, and with the brush, I'm going to paint with black and add about 50% opacity, and just paint right over that, and then lower the opacity even more. Right, zoom in. E for the eraser tool. I painted a little much here. Something like that. I think that's going to work. Except for this isn't going to work here. So on this layer, brush, painting with black at about 20%. Let's just darken this ridge up right here, because it just doesn't look right. Why would that be shiny? He's drawing a shadow from these lights back here. That's something that we need to consider. Okay. Alright, and that light right there, this light right here, you know, so thinking we got a little bit better there. Alright, so that is what we have. I do think that he fits into the scene a lot nicer there, and if there's anything you think I did wrong, I'd really love to hear about it. Go ahead and comment. Commenting helps me. It also gives me the constructive criticism. I really do appreciate it when somebody tells me that I did something wrong, because then I don't have to keep doing it wrong. All right? Okay. And thank you very much. Again, Dana Hogan, the photographer, and she did a good job taking this picture. With the lighting is beautiful, and she had the great idea with the composite, and she's able to do these composites for you. She doesn't need me to help her. She just allowed me to use this to show you how to do it. So thank you very much. If you like it or not, let me know. You can find me at Focal Splash on Facebook or YouTube. Thank you.